Uh, yeah, I want to thank you, Dana, or everybody for allowing me to speak here today. I'm gonna go a little bit further out than only this Canada-US connection. I'm going to show you a little bit about what we do to Europe. I think it's been intriguing to listen to some of the companies here from Newfoundland and listen to how much more engaged in European trade they are than I feel that the Maine community is. I think that's something that we could learn from here. When I came here 4 years ago, I was pretty quick to realize that most companies in this community were looking southwest down there for business, to Boston and Texas and Florida, and see where they can sell their products in there. And we brought our president Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson over here to celebrate with us when we first brought in our first vessel. And he challenged the Maine economy to start looking northwest for business and connections and collaboration. And I think the Maine community has embraced this challenge. The governor has formed the Maine North Atlantic Development Office, which is headed by Dana and has been doing a fabulous job for the last 3 years. The following year, a trade mission was sent over to Iceland and the UK and Greenland. Hundreds of business leaders have been traveling, I know, over to Iceland, but I believe in also more over to Scandinavia. And Dana has been assisting with that as well. And one company that's come over here to start forming business is the Iceland Ocean Cluster, which has partnered with some locals to form the New England Ocean Cluster, which some of you have probably heard about. And their focus has been 100% utilization of resources in seafood. The Maine University all the universities in Maine have traveled to Iceland, and Iceland universities have traveled to Maine with student exchanges. And these institutions are collaborating extensively right now. Maine has attended 3 Arctic Circle conferences in large numbers, and I think the results have become very relevant in Arctic discussions. We're hosting the Arctic Council now in October, along with several other conferences this fall. Trade mission is going to Scandinavia this June with focus on ocean technologies, visiting Norway and Sweden. And I urge you, if you're not on the trade mission or if you're not looking seriously into the opportunities in the North Atlantic, to do so. And I would like to explain why and how we connect you to those markets. This is our sailing chart, and we like to look at ourselves a little bit like AT&T. We connect people. And in the US and Canada, we've been looking at focusing on connecting cultures. I think we are very much of a similar descent and more alike than you can imagine. If you go to Scandinavia, you find people just like yourselves, much more like yourselves than if you go down to Texas or Miami. Because of these similarities, it's easier for Danish and Norwegian companies to come and do business in Maine. Going into New York and Boston is sometimes frightening for those companies. They find very different cultures and are sometimes eaten by sharks and lose their money really quickly. It's much easier to deal with law firms in Portland than in Boston, and it's much easier to deal with banks in Portland than in New York. And for those reasons, I believe that Maine can be a great beachhead for European companies to do business here and move into the US market. Europe has a population of 600 million people. The Eimskip network covers about half of that, which is 300 million people. This is the same size as the US marketplace. And I believe it should get the same interest as the state of Maine is showing the US marketplace, because you have very similar opportunities. It's not only Eimskip that is connecting the northeast coast here with Europe. Icelandair is an Icelandic company which flies from Boston every day, which has flights from Halifax. There's another Icelandic company flying from Montreal. And you can get to Europe in the same time as it takes you to fly to LA or the west coast of the US. And I know many of you companies deal with the west coast, and there should be no reason why you're not dealing at the same time with Europe. And we sometimes tend to look at, when I came up here, at least I told many people that the attitude that I got was people felt like Maine was the end of the world. There was nothing outside of Maine. There was not even Canada up north. I once drove from Portland and up to Quebec, and for 6 hours I was driving through the woods, and I was just thinking that the next thing that I would hit was the North Pole. But like 5 minutes after I cross the border and get into Canada, it's like civilization again. And I just, I told my colleague that was traveling with me that I couldn't understand what was going on here, because it was so much difference in the way people looked at the future. It was just like, here we were depressed about being at the end of the world. But if we look at ourselves on a map, and if we change the map, and if we draw a circle around Portland, there's a population of 60 million people within 600 miles. And that is the time it takes a truck to drive for one day, deliver goods, and come back. And that's kind of how I look at the economy. With investments in the infrastructure, we can probably reach about 160 million people more. And there, when I'm talking about investments in infrastructure, is that we would have to build here in Maine a logistics, a transportation hub that John, and he can probably, I don't know if he'll explain more about that, but that's what he's been working on in the last 5 years, is to improve the logistics infrastructure out of Maine and into Maine, into the rest of the US and into Europe. And to have this in place, we need ocean carriers, we need rail carriers, and we need truckers, we need warehouse solutions. And this is something that has been neglected as a whole, or a holistic view of this has been neglected in the last 50 years, I would say, at least since containerization started. And Maine started to kind of drop off the map as a point to ship to or ship through. It used to be one of the largest ports on the East Coast 100 years ago, but now when we came here, nobody knew about it. Something that I would like to point out to the Newfoundlanders in this room is that by utilizing the connection through Portland into Newfoundland would save you 2,000 kilometers in truck miles. And there's a lot of freight that is coming into Newfoundland via Montreal out of the US. And if we can focus on routing that freight through Portland and on our vessels into Newfoundland, we can save, like I said, 2,000 kilometers on the trucks. We can contribute lower carbon footprint that everybody's looking at doing now, whether that's with offshore wind energy or some sustainable products. We can also do that by trying to change the way we ship things. Ships tend to spend a lot less fuel and therefore have a lot lower carbon footprint than trains, and then again a lot lower carbon footprint than trucks. So we can save by, there's 500,000 people that live in Newfoundland, and we can save considerable amounts of money, millions of dollars, in trying to change those routes. I understand it takes time, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's something that you can maybe bring to your community and help them to understand that now they have a connection to come directly on vessels into Newfoundland instead of moving everything via truck, an extra 2,000 kilometer route. But the Maine Port Authority has also been investing in this. There was a rail introduced into the terminal this fall, and with that rail we get connections throughout the US, and we can bring freight that is going to Newfoundland from Houston and get it on our vessel in Portland and sail it over to Newfoundland. Sometimes today it is being trucked the whole way. Poland Spring has been working with us and in collaboration with the Maine Port Authority, using our containers in moving water on this rail now into Air, Massachusetts. Next year, we are looking at even extending this further with them, going from Massachusetts and further into Connecticut. You can maybe see there's a yellow dot on the bottom of this map, and we're trying to extend their services further south. And with that continuous freight going daily from them into this area, we can also bring daily containers and fill them with cargo and bring them up to Newfoundland and make it a very economic and fuel-efficient way to get from the U.S. to the Newfoundland market. I thought I would bring this up for our friends here from Canada, if you can use it. Dana mentioned the cold storage facility. We're working with Americold in building a cold storage and dry storage facility at the pier. John Henshaw has been working on grounds for that facility for a long time, and we're hoping that that all pulls together next year. And at the same time, we will move our headquarters up to Maine. So Eimskip has been calling on the port now for 3 years, and we are planning to move our senior officials in the U.S. also up there. So we are here to stay and hope to be here for a long time, and we look forward to doing more work in your community. Thank you.